Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noel Cornish, and I assumed the role of Chairman of AML3D Limited's board on the 5th of October this year. I will be chairing this third annual general meeting of AML3D today. I started to work in the steel manufacturing industry back in 1969 with a cadetship at BHP Steel, and concluded my executive career as Chief Executive of BlueScope Steel's Australian and New Zealand businesses. In between, roles included President of North Star BHP Steel in Ohio in the USA and Group General Manager of Australia's Whyalla Steelworks. I believe AML3D is well positioned for success. As you might expect, when the opportunity came for me to consider being chairman, I carried out my own due diligence. The more I understood AML3D's exciting prospects, the more I became interested in joining the company. AML3D's blend of patented industry-leading wire additive manufacturing technology, approvals and accreditations from leading global standards agencies, and an enviable and growing list of global Tier 1 companies as customers will drive this company's success as a provider of advanced industrial 3D printing solutions. This AGM is being held both in person here at 122 Victoria Square in Adelaide and online via the Computershare meeting platform. This allows shareholders, proxies, and guests to attend the meeting in person or virtually. For those participating online, attendees can watch a live webcast of the meeting. In addition, shareholders and proxies have the ability to ask questions and submit votes. As it is now 10:30 Australian Central Daylight Time and the Company Secretary has confirmed that a quorum is present, I now declare this meeting open. I confirm that the meeting has been properly constituted. On behalf of the board, I welcome all shareholders and proxies and guests who are attending here today at today's AGM. I would like to now introduce the board of AML3D present here today. I am joined by Andrew Sales, Executive Director and Chief Technology Officer, Sean Ebert, Non-Executive Director, and Len Pirro, Non-Executive Director. We are also joined by our Company Secretary, Christine Manuel, also present Matthew King and Alastair Taylor-Spry, representing our auditor, William Buck. No apologies have been received for today's meeting. Before I go any further, I would be grateful if you could check to see that your mobile phones have been switched off. Before we review the 2022 financial year and commence the formal proceedings, I will outline the agenda for this morning. I will begin with a brief overview address, followed by an address from AML3D's recently appointed Chief Executive Officer, Ryan Miller. After these addresses, we will proceed to the formal business and the resolutions to be considered by shareholders at today's AGM. Before moving on to the formal business of the AGM, there are a number of procedural matters that I would like to explain. For shareholders who are attending the AGM in person, you will be given the opportunity to ask questions at the appropriate time. Please raise your blue or pink attendee card to indicate if you have a question or comment you wish to make. Questions from shareholders attending virtually can be submitted at any time during today's meeting. To ask a question, select the Q&A icon and type your question in the text box. Once you have finished typing, please hit the send button. For shareholders attending virtually wishing to ask a verbal question, please follow the instructions written below the broadcast. If you have any technical issues, please resubmit your question in writing. Please note that whilst you can submit written questions from now onwards, I will not address them until a relevant time in the meeting. Please also note that your questions may be moderated, or if there are multiple questions on one topic, combined together. The Company Secretary will act as moderator for shareholder questions and will read out any shareholder questions submitted via the online platform during the course of business at today's meeting and introduce any shareholders with verbal questions. I will hand over to the Company Secretary at the appropriate times. During the formal business of the meeting, I will invite questions and comments in relation to each item of business and, as far as possible, questions will be dealt with during the relevant item. If time permits, I will provide further opportunity at the end of the meeting before I close the poll to respond to any remaining questions. Otherwise, we will answer these in due course by email. Voting today will be conducted by way of a poll on all items of business. In order to provide you with enough time to vote, I will shortly open voting for all resolutions. The persons entitled to vote on the poll are all shareholders, representatives and attorneys of shareholders, and proxy holders who hold blue admission cards or have registered via the online meeting platform. On the reverse side of your blue admission card is your voting paper with instructions. Attached to proxy holder admission cards is a summary of proxy votes, which details the voting instructions. By completing the voting paper, you are deemed to have voted in accordance with those instructions. In respect to any open votes a proxy holder may be entitled to cast, you may need to mark a box beside the motion to indicate how you wish to cast your open votes. Shareholders need to mark a box beside the motion to indicate how they wish to cast your votes. A Computershare representative will collect your completed voting paper at the appropriate time during the meeting. For shareholders who are attending the AGM virtually, voting today will be conducted online by AML3D's share registry Computershare. If you are eligible to vote at this meeting, once voting opens, press the vote icon and resolutions will be activated with voting options. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options for each resolution. There is no need to hit a submit or enter button as the vote is automatically recorded. You will receive a vote confirmation notification on your screen. You can change your vote up to the time I declare voting closed. I now declare voting open for all items of business. Please submit your online votes at any time. I will provide ample notice prior to the close of voting towards the end of today's proceedings. Shareholders are reminded that your board strongly recommends that you vote for all resolutions. I appoint Mr. Nigel Bulling of Computershare Investor Services to be the returning officer to conduct the poll. I'd just like now to move into my address, if I could. And I would like to say and note there are several significant macro and geopolitical challenges that are disrupting business as usual on a global scale. As we emerge from a time of COVID lockdowns, we face the disruption and uncertainty linked to the war in Ukraine and rising interest rates across the globe. These are undoubtedly challenging times, but there are also opportunities within these challenges. We have customers approaching us because our advanced manufacturing technology solutions can help them manage the impact of supply chain disruptions and the expanding lead times across traditional manufacturing that impact their businesses. Whether our global customers need access to contract manufacturing services that deliver high-quality components that meet the most stringent industry standards and significantly reduce lead time, or to explore opportunities to develop just-in-time manufacturing at or close to the point of need, AML3D's advanced manufacturing technology can provide solutions that meet these requirements. AML3D's proprietary and industry-certified technology is market-leading and sets us apart. Our advanced wire additive manufacturing combines sophisticated software, advanced robotics, and leading-edge metallurgical science to produce stronger, higher quality, industrial scale 3D metal printed components for our global Tier 1 customers. At the core of our technology offering is our proprietary Alchemy 3D metal printing units. These units are the engine room of our contract manufacturing business. They have also been successfully deployed on site to provide in-house industrial 3D metal printing capabilities for Rowlands Metalworks in South Australia, ST Engineering in Singapore, and at RMIT, the University of Queensland, and the Tonsley Factory of the Future in collaboration with BAE Systems and Flinders University in Adelaide. We see the balance between contract manufacturing and the co-location of Alchemy units at our customers' point of need as essential drivers of revenue and growth. The ability of our contract manufacturing to produce higher quality industrial scale components with significantly shorter lead times compared to traditional manufacturing processes is allowing us to attract the attention of global Tier 1 customers in our target markets of aerospace, defence, oil and gas, and marine industries. During the year, this has translated into several initial contract manufacturing purchase orders as these companies explore integrating AML3D's proprietary manufacturing technology into their supply chains. Just as importantly, we have identified significant demand for Alchemy units to be deployed at the point of need amongst our existing and potential new customers. This is a very exciting development as we see revenue from sales and support of Alchemy units as initially being complementary to contract manufacturing revenues, but with the potential to significantly exceed contract manufacturing over time. Striking a balance between growing our contract manufacturing business and accelerating the deployment and support of Alchemy units in our customers' facilities is fully aligned with our growth strategy. We have continued to win new manufacturing contracts across oil and gas, aerospace and defence sectors in line with our immediate growth horizons. These manufacturing contracts generate revenues and validate our advanced technology solutions for commercial production. The momentum within our contract manufacturing business also supports the demand for Alchemy units to be installed at or close to our customers' point of need to allow on-demand manufacturing. As we continue to build our track record, our customers tell us that co-locating our technology at their point of need is not only a commercially viable option for them, but also overcomes patent and technology protection issues associated with global trade, particularly with US companies. This demand will allow us to accelerate delivery of one of our key medium-term growth horizons, deploying and supporting Alchemy units across our customers' facilities. Our successes in delivering against our immediate and medium-term strategic growth horizons are predicated on AML3D being the leading edge of advanced industrial scale 3D printing. Our third growth horizon is focused on building and maintaining our position at the leading edge through our R&D initiatives. Our R&D is developing new 3D metal printing materials that will expand the range of applications and industries our WAM technology can be used for, and improving our technology solution to allow even faster, more accurate and complete manufacturing of components. I would like to recognise the contribution of Andrew Sales, AML3D's founder and managing director since public listing. Andy has recently moved to the role of Chief Technology Officer and Executive Director, so he can continue the critically important R&D work that will keep AML3D at the leading edge of advanced technology manufacturing and ensure we deliver against our longer-term strategic growth objectives. Andy's transition to CTO aligns with our strategy of retaining and strengthening our technological advantages while building on our commercial achievements. It also creates the opportunity to drive sales growth through the appointment of Ryan Miller, our new Chief Executive Officer, in September this year. Ryan brings 18 years of experience in building and development of startup and scale-up companies, giving AML3D's board confidence that his appointment will help AML3D maximise current growth trajectories that the company is experiencing. I know Ryan shares my excitement about the opportunities for growth in deploying and supporting Alchemy units within our customers' operations alongside contract manufacturing. As our strengthened executive team accelerates key elements of our growth strategy, they do so off a solid foundation. We have proprietary and proven leading-edge advanced manufacturing technology and R&D projects to differentiate our solutions and maintain a leadership position. We have contract manufacturing operations that continue to win new orders and are expected to grow and provide ongoing, stable source of revenue. And we have the significant opportunity to build on the existing sales of Alchemy units and to transition to sales to commercial customers that will generate additional ongoing revenue from supporting those units. In 2022, we completed the installation of 3 Alchemy units alongside a 60% increase in revenue from contract manufacturing. Total revenue for 2022 financial year was $2 million, an increase of over 200% on the prior year. The company remained debt-free during financial year 2022. In July, we completed a $2.7 million before cost capital raise by way of a placement of new shares to help fund the acceleration of our growth initiatives, to support our expanded business development team to bolster sales and marketing pipelines, to continue to enhance our technology advantage, to maintain a market leader, and to meet the working capital demands of an upscaling business. Before I hand over to Ryan, I'd like to thank my fellow board members for the wide-ranging skills and expertise they bring to AML3D. As I familiarise myself with AML3D, their support and input has been and will be very much appreciated. In particular, I would like to recognise the contribution of AML3D of Len Pirro, who will be retiring from the board at the end of this annual general meeting. Len has been an integral part of AML3D's journey since the beginning in 2016. Since this time, Len has supported Andy Sales and the company with business advice and support, industry insights, and business development oversight, both in its former years and then as a key member of the board for the last 3 years. The company, and particularly Andy, is extremely grateful to have had someone with valuable knowledge and advice over this time. We wish Len well in his retirement and thank him for his valuable contributions. As Len retires, he leaves the company well positioned for its next phase of growth, with the board that has the right mix of skills and experience to maximise this opportunity. AML3D has a continuous process of board renewal, and we will look to add additional skills and experience as needed. I look forward to continuing to work with the AML3D board, management and staff to unlock the full potential of the company's advanced manufacturing technology. And while we have expanded the leadership team to accelerate the delivery of our growth strategy, our vision remains consistent. We utilise new technologies to pioneer and lead metal additive manufacturing globally. And our mission remains. We partner with our customers, we partner with our clients to help them to maintain global competitiveness. And we do this by helping them establish Industry 4.0 capability through our additive manufacturing solutions using Internet of the Things technology. And our values of integrity, collaboration, can-do team, focused and creative, ensure we have the right culture to deliver on our strategic objectives. I want to thank our management team and staff for living our values and working tirelessly to serve our customers and deliver our growth strategy to build a successful business that will create value for all our stakeholders over time. And finally, I'd like to thank our shareholders for their ongoing support of AML3D. We are confident we have the right skills and experience at the board level, the right balance across our senior management team, and the right technology solutions, partners, and global tier one customers to rapidly scale AML3D to deliver significant shareholder value. I will now hand over to AML3D's recently appointed CEO, Ryan Miller, who will talk in greater detail about some of the achievements and milestones from last year, the opportunities for growth he is pursuing, and why AML3D is positioned for a strong 2023 and beyond.
Thank you, Noel, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Noel has mentioned, I assumed the role of Chief Executive Officer in September of this year, although I had been a consultant to AML3D for a couple of months before formally becoming CEO. I've spent over 18 years building, leading, and scaling up tech companies. And before joining AML3D, I was the CEO of the Easy Group, where I set a new direction and strategy, built capability throughout the business, and spun out existing IP into a separate business. In 2021, Easy's revenue grew by 70% and EBIT by 300%. Since joining AML3D, I have developed a good understanding of the business, its patented wire additive manufacturing or WAM technology, and the work that has been done to create an impressive platform and customer base from which to accelerate the growth. I've also had my boots on the ground in the market, meeting customers and potential customers in Australia and the US. I'm happy to report that there is huge demand for advanced technology manufacturing solutions. I see tremendous opportunities to drive growth across the business through the provision of contract manufacturing services, and even more so by supplying Alchemy units to our customers, which will include multi-year ongoing software licensing and as a design and support revenue streams. I'm incredibly excited by the growth opportunities at AML3D, but as I say, we only have the right to pursue them because we can launch from a great foundation. And much credit for that must go to my predecessor as CEO and now CTO, Andy Sales. I'm looking forward to working with, leaning on, and learning from Andy. The business will benefit from his focus on delivering the R&D projects that will not only create the next generation of materials, but also as we develop our software and technology solutions to ensure that we remain at the leading edge in the wire additive manufacturing market. The strong foundations I have inherited are built around our proprietary WAM technology, which is at the heart of our industrial scale Alchemy units. Our WAM technology has very few peers in the wire additive manufacturing space. Our combination of sophisticated software, advanced robotics, and leading edge metallurgical science positions us as a clear sector leader. In addition, our WAM technology has world-first accreditations and certifications awarded by global standard-setting agencies such as Lloyd's Register and DNV, making our technology solutions commercially relevant right now, giving us a great advantage. It is an advantage that we're building further on as we have initiated the AS9100D Quality Systems Accreditation process for our WAM technology, which is essential for the certification of aerospace components. The strong foundations underpin our impressive existing client relationships with global tier one companies across oil and gas, defense, marine, and aerospace. As is often the case with commercial and in-confidence discussions and negotiations, We're not always at liberty to disclose who our counterparties are, but as previously announced, we have contract wins with BAE, Chevron, a large oil and gas tier one, and a large North American global aerospace manufacturer. And as Noel mentioned, these strong foundations delivered a 200% jump in revenues to 2 million in FY 2022 from deploying our Alchemy units predominantly into the tertiary education sector and from winning contract manufacturing work. During FY 2022, we deployed Alchemy units into RMIT, University of Queensland, and the Flinders University BAE Systems Factory of the Future. The sales of Alchemy units to RMIT, the University of Queensland, and others have generated revenues of approximately $400,000 each, and possibly more importantly demonstrate that we can deploy and support Alchemy units for our commercial clients. These full service contracts will be higher margin and include ongoing revenue streams from software licensing, training, and design services. I mentioned that I'd been talking to clients and prospective clients in the US last month. I had 10 days of meetings and was invited to the US Navy's submarine industrial base in Danville, Virginia, where they're developing a purpose-built 3D manufacturing center of excellence. I encountered significant interest and demand for additive manufacturing systems across defense, especially in the maritime sector, and specifically interest in how AML3D's Alchemy units might operate as in-house, on-demand, point-of-need solutions to meet sovereign capability requirements and solve their manufacturing and supply chain challenges. This interest in the US is a result of President Biden's Additive Manufacturing Forward, or AM Forward initiative. However, we expect to see similar opportunities across other international markets. I have no doubt that AML3D's market-leading WAM technology is the right point of need and on-demand manufacturing solution at this time. We also continue to win contract manufacturing projects and have focused on building our presence in the oil and gas, aerospace, and defense sectors. Earlier in FY 2022, we announced a contract with a North American aerospace and space exploration company to create a high-strength, corrosion-resistant nickel alloy prototype component. For confidentiality reasons, we cannot disclose more specific details. However, the order represented a first contract in the aerospace sector and was followed by a purchase contract with a new defense aerospace customer to deliver a 500 kilogram 4-part aluminium nozzle. The nozzle order preceded a $140,000 purchase agreement in July that was subsequently increased by 150% in September, demonstrating great momentum in the aerospace and defense sectors. Also, during the first half of FY 2022, the company signed a purchase contract to produce what is believed to be the world's first 3D metal printed pressure and corrosion resistant titanium plunger for a new oil and gas customer. This was followed in June by a $190,000 manufacturing purchase order with a US-based oil and gas major to create the world's largest 3D metal printed commercial pressure vessel. The oil and gas industry is a key focus for AML3D. In the energy sector, we have supplied a 3D printed nickel aluminium bronze power plant part for a major Australian energy company after signing a purchase contract for $55,000 in May. In addition, AML3D is an approved supplier to ThyssenKrupp, the German industrial engineering and steel company, and received and fulfilled multiple orders during FY 2022. And just last month, we announced a contract with BAE Systems Australian business for test pass to support the delivery of the Australian Navy's Hunter-class frigate program. We continue to have positive discussions with several other global tier one companies that we believe will lead to new orders. Significant progress has been made across several AML3D R&D projects. The optimizing of scandium containing aluminium alloys project focused on developing high-strength wire feedstock to be used in AML3D's WAM process. This met all expectations and was extended to full commercial trials. A successful conclusion is expected to lead to new applications for WAM across automotive, resources, and the broader marine and transport industries. AML3D's R&D projects on the use of boron nitride nanotubes, or BNNTs, in AML3D's WAM technology creates stronger and lighter aluminium composites with increased thermally and radiation-resistant properties. This has had positive outcomes and started to attract commercial interest in the application for these BNNT aluminium composites. These R&D projects have the potential to significantly enhance AML3D's revenue prospects through increased opportunities in both Archimey unit sales and contract manufacturing services. AML3D's next generation Archimey units are designed to expand the range of WAM technology applications by creating high productivity Archimey units that are designed to print up to 5 times faster than our existing units by making use of twin wire feeds. This technology builds on AML3D's next generation hybrid printing project with the CSIRO. These R&D projects have the potential to significantly enhance AML3D's revenue prospects through increased opportunities in both printer sales and contract manufacturing services. FY 2022 has been a busy year and one I believe supports AML3D's compelling investment thesis. We have a proprietary market-leading in-demand disruptive wire additive manufacturing technology that delivers value for customers such as faster lead times, solutions for supply chain constraints and sourcing parts, and the delivery of higher quality components and improved ESG outcomes. We can produce components up to 75% faster with significant waste reductions, sometimes saving up to 80%, and a process that meets and exceeds the most stringent global standards. We're privileged to have won global clients through our contract manufacturing business and successfully deployed and installed multiple Archimey units. We have a multi-phase growth strategy designed to add value at each stage. Our immediate horizon is leveraging our contract manufacturing capability to service our existing clients. It is delivering with notable purchase contracts already in place and expanding within aerospace, defense, maritime, and oil and gas. Over the medium-term horizon, it is even more exciting with the opportunity to win high-margin Archimey deployments with long-tail Archimey support contracts alongside our contract manufacturing. A key initial focus for Archimey unit sales will be in the US and defense contracts within maritime and aerospace, where demand is forecast to continue growing. There are also opportunities in the oil and gas sector to solve point-of-need manufacturing challenges with our existing clients, win new oil and gas and energy clients, and access new markets globally. AML3D is not restricted by geography, with a tech solution that can be deployed here in Australia and just as easily in North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. And in the longer term, we will maintain our leadership position by continuing to invest in our R&D for software and metallurgical science. The ability to deploy Archimey as a turnkey technology solution with a software stack incorporating robotics, welding, and metallurgical science in an easily deployable and configurable manner in any market globally positions us to scale our business quickly. I've spent time in the market and have identified the opportunity to position Archimey units close to the point of need to deliver a solution that negates existing supply chain constraints and risks, delivers parts faster, and provides clients with greater control and flexibility over their industrial manufacturing capability. Embedding Archimey units close to the point of need will also help overcome challenges associated with a global trade of manufactured goods with patent and technology transfers. I see contract manufacturing growing and playing a critical role in client acquisition. However, I also see a tremendous opportunity for deploying our Archimey units close to that point of need to meet the growing demand in our target markets, especially in the US and particularly in the defense sector, both maritime and aerospace. So as we scale, I see the deployment of Archimey units within our customers' operations becoming a core offering where there is an opportunity to drive greater margins, delivering more profit to the bottom line, whilst contract manufacturing continues to grow, but represents less and less of the overall revenue pie. Our R&D will help and enable us to develop new and innovative ways to configure our Archimey platform to win more clients, potentially outside our existing target markets, and provide innovative materials and alloys to meet the demands of a broader and different range of use cases. Beyond that, our R&D programs are designed to ensure that we maintain that market leadership advantage by improving the Alchemy platform so that it has faster deposition rates or even multiple robots laying down beads of metal simultaneously and creating stronger, lighter, and more corrosion-resistant parts so that we can address additional target markets in the future. We have a solid foundation to use as a springboard to access a huge market opportunity. The global additive manufacturing market is expected to grow to 78 billion by 2028. The 3D metal printing market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 24% to 738 million by 2025. To maximize our ability to access this potential growth, we have added strength and depth to the AML3D board with the appointment of Noel and to the executive leadership team through my appointment. We have also supercharged our global sales function with the appointment of Kerry Owens as Vice President of Global Sales. Kerry brings over 22 years of sales experience, working at several leading global companies such as Gartner and EY, and most recently at GE Digital. Kerry's strong cross-industry business development expertise is helping to identify, develop, and close complex sales and global account opportunities that will accelerate AML3D's growth. In addition, Kerry is adding her commercial rigor to ensure client services and sales operations are effective, efficient, and aligned with our market strategy. I believe AML3D has put in place the executive team to deliver the company's growth strategy across our immediate, medium, and longer-term horizons and has the right approach to scale up our business. As we scale up, we also expect to see a commensurate increase in the value we create for our shareholders. We have the right technology, are working with the best-placed Tier 1 global customers, and have the right blend of skills and experience within our leadership team to execute on our growth strategy. That's what I'm here to deliver, and I'm confident that the market will fairly value AML3D shares as I do so. I'd also like to thank our shareholders for their continuing support, and to Noel and our board members for providing their advice, expertise, and guidance as AML3D moves on to the next phase. I will now hand back to Noel to commence the formal part of the AGM. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I now turn to the formal business of the meeting. The notice of meeting, including an explanatory memorandum, was made available to all shareholders from 21st of October 2022. I propose to take it as read. A copy is available on the AML3D website. The notice of meeting provides details of the motions to be put to this meeting, and I will give shareholders the opportunity to ask questions and comment on each motion. The minutes of the 2021 AGM were approved by the board and signed by the chairman. These minutes are tabled and copies are available on request from the company secretary. Proxy votes have been received from 76 members representing 45,517,769 shares, which is 24.2% of the company's voting shares. The proxy votes will be displayed on the screen for the information of members before discussion of each resolution and before putting the resolution to a vote. The first item of business is to receive, consider, and discuss the company's financial statements and the report of the directors and auditor for the year ended 30 June 2022. A copy of the 2022 annual report is available on the AML3D website. We are not required to adopt these documents formally by way of a resolution by shareholders. However, I would be pleased to take comments or questions from shareholders on this item. This is also an opportunity for shareholders to ask questions about the business, including any matters dealt with in the CEO Ryan Miller's presentation or my address today. I ask that shareholders attending the meeting in person to hold any questions in relation to the resolutions in the notice of meeting until the relevant time. I will provide a further opportunity for questions at each item of business. Shareholders attending online can submit a written question at any time, and it will be read out at the appropriate item of business. AML3D's auditor is present and also available to answer questions where appropriate. I will now invite any questions or comments from shareholders in relation to this item of business or the address that has been delivered by myself and the CEO. If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee cards if you wish to speak to the meeting. When I acknowledge you, please wait for a microphone to be brought to you, then state your name and put your question or comment to the meeting. I will firstly address a question received from a shareholder, Mr. Douglas Jones, prior to the meeting. He asked, performance of shares in relation to 70 cents to now? Can I thank Mr. Jones for his question? The share price has struggled since 2020. However, it was a different point in time, and certainly before the COVID international pandemic that we've had to deal with. Also, the tech sector was valued quite differently in the market at that point in time to what it is today. And the interest in our sector has not gone away, but the spotlight is certainly on others now in this particular market. I do note, however, that our share price and our performance has gone well compared to our peers, and that we have performed quite solidly in that regard. I should note, though, however, the job of your board and for our management team is to not only outperform our peers, but to do very well in the market as a whole, and we will be very sharply focused on that in the future through to 2023. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your question. Are there any other questions from shareholders attending in person? Yes, thank you.
Chairman, I'm not quite sure whether it relates to the question I wanted to ask is really on the technical issues of the machinery itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is it to be dealt with because of the economic impact of those things to talk it now, or will there be opportunity later to ask questions on technical performance?
Well, this is with respect to the financial report and our comments from the CEO's address and mine. But I think while you're on your feet, maybe we should give you the opportunity to ask some of those questions, and as it might flow out of our addresses. So okay. Please go ahead.
Well, one of them is I'd like to ask is, what is the economic life of one of these 3D printing machines? And if you're going into the market to sell them, how often are they going to need to be replaced? I understand the service contracts will be for the software and ongoing sort, but it's a matter of getting a picture of what are the economic realities of the machines which are being produced and ultimately signed. I presume the amortization rate for these is probably 5 years. Is that a life expectancy? Anyway,
okay. Well, let me then try and address your question and see how I go. And so firstly, this is the hardware here is fairly standard equipment, being robotic arms and positioners. Their lifetime can actually be extended considerably by upgrades and keeping the maintenance up to them as they should. So they don't necessarily wear out in a short period of time. They can be quite useful for extended periods. And it really is only when we see a significant increase in capability of this equipment that we we might see them reach the end of their lives, but they tend to be able to go on for some time. I will ask our CFO to confirm what the depreciation time is for this equipment. 10 years. So with respect to the company's financial statements, these will be fully depreciated over a 10-year period. The other part of this Archimedes system, of course, is the software. And this is quite the unique software and the heart of what this company is about. And it combines the normal controls that you would have over the positioners and the robot, but also the aspects of welding technology and the metallurgical science that particularly sits behind that. That work is continually being worked on within the organisation. Andy Sales, our founder, really initiated all this work and developed all these patented processes that make the Archimedes system what it is and the leading edge today. That upgrades to those systems will be released to customers over time, depending on the commercial arrangement we have with them. So I think if I just cut to the chase on your answer, in the financials, a 10-year amortization period for us, but that might be different for different organisations in different parts of the world. The hardware is robust and maintained correctly, can go on for some time, but may want to be replaced depending on increased capability that the customer is looking for. And we'll have a commercial arrangement that keeps our software updated and the ability to make new releases which can generate more revenue and profit for the organisation over time. Can I just check now whether that answers your question?
A supplementary question. What is the build time for one of these machines?
Okay, so...
and the factory that you have, how many can they effectively build per annum?
Okay. The typical build time for one of these machines, you keep in mind that we buy a robot, we do not make a robot. And so we actually buy the robot in from a commercial robot manufacturer, in fact, a leading manufacturer in the world in this regard, and the positioning system. And then there's the computer interfaces which come, through standard computer technology, and along with our software. So that is a unit. So if your question is specifically, if we get an order, how long can it take to build a unit? Then it is just a standard industrial manufacturing process. We have the components, we have to build the covers around it. We've done this before, so rather than me have a stab at the answer, what's the go to 6 weeks to be able to build a unit? Okay, because the large components, sir, are already available and ready to bolt into it. Yep.
Thereabouts, and that the factory can only build one unit at a time?
No, we can build multiple units at a time. I don't think, from our viewpoint, we're not constrained by our ability to build multiple units if the demand is there.
Okay, because you're going to need to do a lot to recover the losses that are already there.
We understand. We've been a startup organisation with a brand new technology breaking into the global market, and the challenges of these sorts of organisations of breaching that threshold of going from having a very exciting technology that we know the world is going to embrace, and we're already seeing that happening, through to just trying to cross that chasm at the moment of seeing a steady flow of demand come through. Did that answer your questions? Oh, well, thanks very much. I will now check with the Company Secretary whether there are any questions or comments received from virtual attendees via the online platform.
Chairman, I confirm that there are no questions at this time online.
Thank you. The notice of meeting also invited shareholders to submit questions to the auditor in relation to the auditor accounting policies. No written questions for the auditor have been received. We will now proceed to the ordinary business of the meeting. As the first resolution relates to my election, I will hand over to my fellow director, Sean Ebert, to chair this item.
Thank you, Noel. So resolution 2A is the election of Mr. Noel Cornish, AM, as a director of the company. Noel Cornish was appointed as independent non-executive chairman of AML3D on the 5th of October 2022. A summary of Noel's experience and background was provided in the notice of meeting. As indicated in the notice of meeting, the board, with Noel Cornish abstaining, recommends that all shareholders vote in favour of Noel's election. I now move to Mr. Noel Cornish to be elected as a director. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to the resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make any comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I'll now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions which we've received, or to introduce any shareholders wishing to ask verbal questions.
Chairman, I confirm there are no questions online at this point.
You are invited to vote for Resolution 2A by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. I'll now hand back to Noel to chair the next item.
Thank you, Sean. Resolution 2B is the election of Mr. Sean Ebert as a director of the company. The company's constitution requires that at every AGM of the company, 1/3 of directors must retire, and that for the purposes of calculation, the managing director is excluded. Sean Ebert is retiring by rotation and, being eligible, is seeking re-election as a director. A summary of Sean's experience and background is provided in the notice of meeting. As indicated in the notice of meeting, the board, with Mr. Ebert abstaining, recommends that shareholders vote in favour of Sean's election. I now move that Mr. Sean Ebert be elected as a director. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak at the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions or comments from online attendees we have received, or to introduce any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, I confirm there are no questions from online attendees at this point.
You are invited to vote for Resolution 2B by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. A resolution for adoption of the remuneration report is required to be considered and voted on in accordance with Section 250R of the Corporations Act. The remuneration report is set out in the 2022 annual report. It details the company's remuneration framework and the remuneration outcomes in the 2021 and 22 financial year for key management personnel, including directors and senior executives. The shareholder vote on the remuneration report is advisory only and does not bind the directors or the company in accordance with the Corporations Act. However, the board will take the outcome of the vote into consideration when reviewing the remuneration practices and policies of the company. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of adopting the remuneration report. Voting exclusions apply for this resolution, and these are outlined in the notice of meeting. I now move that the remuneration report for the year ended 30 June 2022 be adopted. Details of valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions or comments we have received from online attendees or advise of any shareholder wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, I confirm there are no questions from online attendees.
I will now put the motion to the vote. You are invited to vote for Resolution 3 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. I now move to the special business of the meeting. The next item of business is item 4, the approval of the grant of performance rights to the CEO, Mr. Ryan Miller. The company is seeking the approval of shareholders under ASX Listing Rule 7.1 for the grant of a total of 1,700,000 performance rights to the CEO under the company's performance rights and options plan on the terms set out in the explanatory notes in the notice of meeting. The board considers that the performance rights provide an appropriate and meaningful form of long-term incentive remuneration that aligns with shareholder interests, but does not provide the CEO with the full benefits of share ownership, including voting rights, unless and until the performance rights vest. Full explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. Voting exclusions apply for this resolution, and these are outlined in the notice of meeting. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of the grant of performance rights to the CEO. I now move Resolution 4 as shown on the screen. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question, or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions or comments from online attendees we have received or advise of any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, there are no further questions from online participants.
I will now put the motion to a vote as an ordinary resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 4 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. I will now hand over again to Sean Ebert to chair the next item of business.
Thank you, Noel. The next item of business is item 5, the approval of the grant of options to the recently appointed chairman, Mr. Noel Cornish, subject to his election by shareholders as recommended at the earlier Resolution 2A. The company is seeking the approval of shareholders under ASX Listing Rule 10.14.1 for the grant of 2 million options to Noel Cornish under the company's performance rights and options plan on the terms set out in the explanatory notes in the notice of meeting. The board considers that the issue of these options will appropriately enhance the alignment of director interests with that of shareholders through a reasonable and appropriate method of providing cost-effective non-cash remuneration. Further explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. Voting exclusions apply for this resolution, and these were outlined in the notice of meeting. The board, with Noel Cornish abstaining, recommends the shareholders vote in favour of the grant of 2 million options to Mr. Cornish. I now move Resolution 5 as shown on the screen. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to the resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask any questions on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I'll now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions we've received from any online attendees or advise of any shareholders wishing to ask verbal questions.
Chairman, there are no questions from online participants for this item.
I will now put the motion to a vote as an ordinary resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 5 by using your voting icon online or marking your voting card. I'll now hand back to Noel Cornish to chair the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Sean. The next item of business is item 6, the approval of the company's performance rights and options plan. The company is seeking the approval of shareholders under ASX Listing Rule 7.2, Exception 13, to renew the approval of the company's performance rights and options plan and to enable the securities granted under the plan and shares issued upon the vesting of or exercise of certain of such securities to be exempted from contributing towards the rolling annual limit of 15% of shares issued prescribed by ASX Listing Rule 7.1. Shareholder approval of the plan is required to be refreshed every 3 years in order for the company to issue performance rights or options under ASX Listing Rule 7.2, Exception 13, up to the maximum number of securities as indicated in the notice of meeting. No changes are proposed to the previously approved plan rules. For avoidance of doubt, I confirm that the company must seek separate shareholder approval under ASX Listing Rule 10.14 in respect to any of the future issues of securities under the plan to a related party, including directors. Further explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. Voting exclusions apply for this resolution, and these are outlined in the notice of meeting. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of refreshing the approval of the company's performance rights and options plan. I now move Resolution 6 as shown on the screen. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions we have received from online attendees or advise any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, I confirm that the online attendees have not submitted any questions for this item.
I will now put the motion to a vote as an ordinary resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 6 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. The next item of business is item 7, the ratification of prior issue of shares. On 20 July 2022, the company issued 37,605,038 fully paid ordinary shares as a private placement in accordance with the company's placement capacity under ASX Listing Rule 7.1. This resolution seeks the approval of shareholders to ratify the issue of these shares under ASX Listing Rule 7.1 and for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 7.4. Approval of this resolution will have the effect of refreshing the company's 15% placement capacity under ASX Listing Rule 7.1. Further explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of approving the ratification of shares issued in the placement. I now move Resolution 7 as shown on the screen. Details of valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions we have received from online attendees or advise of any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, there are no questions from online attendees for this item.
I will now put the motion to a vote as an ordinary resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 7 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. The next item of business is item 8, the approval of an additional 10% placement capacity. Broadly speaking, ASX Listing Rule 7.1 limits the amount of equity securities that a listed company can issue without the approval of its shareholders over any 12-month period to 15% of the fully paid ordinary securities it has on issue at the start of the period. Under ASX Listing Rule 7.1, a company can seek approval from its shareholders to increase this 15% limit by an extra 10% to a total of 25%. The company wishes to retain as much flexibility as possible to be able to issue equity securities for cash consideration in the coming 12 months, if required. This may be for funds for various activities deemed by the board to be in the best interests of the company. Further explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of approving the 10% placement capacity. I now move Resolution 8 as shown on the screen. Details of the valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions we have received online from online attendees or advise of any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, there are no questions from online attendees for this item.
I will now put the motion to a vote as a special resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 8 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. The final item of business is item 9, the approval of the renewal of the partial takeover plebiscites in the company's constitution. The partial takeover plebiscites set out in Rule 36 of the company's constitution were last approved by shareholders at a general meeting on the 25th of October 2019, when the current constitution of the company was adopted, with effect from the 5th of December 2019. The plebiscites prohibit registration of transfers of shares acquired under an off-market proportional takeover bid unless a resolution is passed by shareholders approving the bid. The plebiscites cease to have effect after 3 years unless renewed. It is proposed that the plebiscites are renewed in the same form as last approved by shareholders in 2019. Further explanatory information on this resolution was included in the notice of meeting. The board recommends that shareholders vote in favour of the renewal of the partial takeover plebiscite by renewing Rule 36 of the company's constitution in the same form as approved by shareholders at the same time of adoption of the constitution in 2019. I now move Resolution 9 as shown on the screen. Details of valid proxy votes received in respect to this resolution are now shown on the screen. Does any shareholder wish to make a comment or ask a question on the proposed resolution? If there are any shareholders attending in person with a question or comment, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak to the meeting. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any questions we have received from online attendees or advise of any shareholders wishing to ask a verbal question.
Chairman, no questions from online attendees.
I will now put the motion to a vote as a special resolution. You are invited to vote for Resolution 9 by using the voting icon online or marking your voting card. That concludes all the resolutions to be voted. Shortly, I will close the poll. Please ensure that you have cast your vote on all 9 resolutions. I remind you that you have the ability to change your vote until the time that I declare voting closed. Shareholders are reminded that your board recommends that you vote for all resolutions. For persons voting with a blue admission card, please lodge it in the ballot box, which will be circulated to ensure your votes are counted. While you are finalising your votes, I will call for any final questions or comments on any items of business. Shareholders attending in person, please raise your blue or pink attendee card if you wish to speak again. I will now ask the Company Secretary to read out any additional questions we have received or advise of any shareholders who have indicated they wish to ask a further question verbally.
Chairman, there are no further questions online.
For persons voting with a blue voting card at the meeting, before placing the voting paper in one of the ballot boxes, a voter must indicate the manner in which the votes are to be cast by placing a mark in a box beside each motion to indicate how you wish to cast your votes. Print your name at the bottom of the voting paper and sign the voting paper. Please lodge your voting paper in a ballot box, which will be circulated to ensure your votes are counted. If you require any assistance completing your card, please raise your hand. I will now pause for a period of time for you to finalise your votes. I declare the poll closed and formally charge Mr. Nigel Bulling of Computershare as a returning officer to count the votes. After the votes have been counted, the results of today's poll will be released to the ASX and displayed on the company's website. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business of this annual general meeting, and I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance and for your support of AML3D.